I get asked a lot of questions about encaustics, but one of the most prevalent questions I get asked is about simple color mixing. So I thought I would do a video on some very basic color mixing techniques, and hopefully you'll enjoy them and get a little bit of information out of it. One of the simplest ways to get color mixing is to simply take your paint, apply it to your substrate, clean this off so I don't contaminate between colors, and I'm going to take my next color and apply directly over top of my first color. And already you can see an optical mix of the blue and the yellow making a green. But I'm going to turn the heat gun on and use that to physically mix my pigments together to create my secondary color. That is probably the simplest way to mix your colors on your substrate. And I could take every single one of these colors and mix them in different areas and get slightly different variations on this color theme. So if I want to lighten it, I can take my white, so each time I add a color and then fuse it by manipulating with the brush, I create another color. If I want to tone that to make it darker, a darker green, by adding black, so I could keep going on and on. As you see, all I'd need to do to alter this color is to come back in and add any one of my other colors and re-liquefy using the brush to physically mix. And that will give me endless possibilities on color mixing. So I'm going to show you now another very basic way of color mixing, where I'm going to take my pigments, my pure pigments, apply them to the hot palette, mix them on the hot palette, and then apply that to the substrate. And again, I'm just using a cold press illustration board. It's a really great practice panel. So if you want to work out color worlds for larger projects, illustration board is a wonderful way of doing that. Okay, so I think what I'll do is start with red this time. And cadmium red has a stronger tinting strength than the cadmium yellow. But here I'm making my secondary color, which is orange, and I'm going to apply that directly to my substrate. If you want to be mixing your own colors, this is another very suitable way of mixing colors. I want to lighten that. Enkaustikos manufactures over 70 colors, but still there are a lot of people who really enjoy creating their own colors. And I think it's a crucial aspect to your art making to understand the nature of color mixing. Another way to approach color mixing is by putting your substrate directly on your palette. And what that'll allow you to do is, as long as your substrate is hot, your wax will stay hot, and you can manipulate it for the longevity of, or for the duration of the time that it's on your palette. You'll notice I keep dipping into this slick wax, and it's gotten quite dirty looking, and it is quite dirty. However, it's still working. And you can see how quickly you can manipulate this color and create your secondary color. Here, for instance, is that red, so you can see the difference. And if I wanted to take the blue and incorporate a little bit of red in that, this is as close to a purple as I'm going to get from a cobalt and a cadmium. And there's the blue. And you can see that even though the yellow's been sitting over here this whole time, it's still in a workable state. And there's a green. And there's white added to the blue. And you can see, again, it's very fluid. And if I want to bring it into the purple, and if I, for some reason, wanted to bring in some black for mixing, just to gray it down, or tone my colors. A lot of times what I will do when I'm starting out on a new project is I'll lay out my colors, and I'll do a variety of color mixing just to see all the different possibilities that I can get out of a very simple palette, and see if it satisfies me. That way, if I decide to change out a blue, I've got my practice panel here, and I know exactly what one blue is going to do versus another blue. Different pigments have different tinting strengths, and a lot of times what I will do is, if I know a pigment has a very strong tinting strength, such as cadmium reds do, a lot of times what I will do is I will take my wax medium and I will put that directly on a clean palette. You really want to make sure your palette's clean, because this is the base of all of our paints, and in essence it's a colorless, you can think of it as a colorless paint. And then I'll take a pigment that I know to be super strong in tinting strength, and I'll sometimes dilute that down. Now with the opaque colors, you're still basically going to be getting a fairly opaque glaze, if you will. However, when I go to mix in a pigment that is not quite as strong, it's a way of keeping that one pigment in check. And so now I have my orange without using a full-strength cadmium red. So I hope this helped you in demystifying some of the issues you might have had with color mixing. And my best advice to those of you who are just getting started would be truly to just start off with a very basic color palette and get to know what those color mixes can do and the different colors that they can create. And as you get comfortable with that, build up your color palette by adding new ones. But in the meantime, I hope you will enjoy your encaustic journey, and we'll be back later.